Hello, everybody. Hello, Gravitrons. I'm more gravity. Let's play chess. In this game of chess that I finished about half an hour ago, I'm mostly going to review this one point uh, that I think is compelling for learning and budding chess players. So I had the black pieces, Petrov defense, Russian game, whatever you want to call it. I expanded the c5. My opponent called me on it, which is the correct way. And there's a fight for the center, hearty fight for the center. A miss there in some way, but a miss that nonetheless forces the queen back to d1, so she's not as strong a presence on the board, or does it force it? It's the best move anyway, and so it's sort of like a light force. Black is doing fine out of the opening, has strong control over center tiles, center squares. He's going to be ready to castle soon. White is not as developed, and material is in favor of white. So now queen to b6 and shuffling of pieces. I'm not too much worried about these moves, even though there seems to be a lot of inaccuracies and mistakes involved. Let's not focus on those for right now. It's a little bit of jockeying and jostling for position. The queen trade, both when I ran this through on Lichess, as well as, let me make sure that, what is this move? 19. I think that on Lichess, there was an objection to move 19 as well. Let's see. Well, it was a non-optimal move by black that looks like Lichess considers white gained half a pawn there, but it wasn't annotated, so take that as you may. We're back to, I don't usually have this many browsers open, but we're at move 19 of the game recreated by chess.com, as it were, and my opponent castles. There's nothing wrong with that. More moves that seem to not be quite accurate, and now we're at a bit of a stopping point. The knight to e2. I made the move knight to e2. Knight to e2 check. This brings up, when you're looking at this, you want to look at this thematic checkmate. There's a checkmating pattern that people need to know. Sometimes with the knight controlling both g1 and g3, you can get a checkmate somehow, either by removing h2 with a piece, by attacking it while it's while the attacking piece is supported. And that could be a checkmate. There's a direct line of mate along the H file. It's called the epaulet mate, mostly because it looks like where the king gets checkmated, like there's epaulettes on g3 and g1. It's not actually an epaulet mate. It's only called that once in a while if someone is confused, like I was just then. Anyway, rook to h4 is the right move. It's receiving some criticism, as it is now considered an inaccuracy, but it forces white's hand because knight to g3 check hits at both the king and the rook, and black is threatening the win of the exchange. Rook to f3 is fine, but then after bishop to e5, pawn to h3, and here's the moment I wanted to detail. I like this moment because it shows how I've progressed and grown and improved as a chess player. Pawn to g5 would not have been in my wheelhouse or thought pattern before recently. I might play knight to g3 check, or I would play knight to f4 and hope something gets over advanced, and then I just attack, meaning capture on h3 there. I might have played rook to e8. All these other moves, but pawn to g5, because I show that I'm not worried about a counterattack. If anybody's attacking in this position, it's black. There was some worry that then maybe white would have a bishop on b2 streaming all the way across the board, but that bishop's blocked by his own pawn, so I took that into account and said moving pawn to g5 is weak, but only weak to a move like rook to g3, and my bishop has that, my knight has that. So I felt pawn to g5 was strong for that reasons, and for those reasons, and for what it shows independent of that, which is its power as an attacking piece. My opponent moved rook to e3, and then pawn moves ahead to g4. I don't think is that what I just said? I eventually chose that on move 30. But the pawn is powerful as an attacking piece because when it gets to g4, you can just start capturing other pawns. Or if h takes g4, then rook to h1 check. And we're trading rooks on the a file, but also white is being attacked with many pieces. Pawn to g4, like I said, we were here with the move rook to d3. I meant to say d3, and then pawn to g4 right away, and things get better for black in a hurry. Even here, winning the exchange outright. You look at this and you say, rook to f1, what a bad move, he's going to lose the exchange. Well, first of all, he, she, or they are going to lose the exchange, but it's not clear that that's necessarily the worst thing on the chessboard, right? There's all kinds of checks. There's captures here that would probably open the defense, and like I said, there's checks here as well. So maybe sacrificing the exchange was on my opponent's mind, or maybe not. Either way, I'll take it. I'll go up the exchange. And black has proved his point. With captures on the h file here, I do kind of just barely scurry out of this after pawn to g3. I'm pretty sure there's a really tight window of where the rook at h4 can go. So pretty much rook g4 is called for here. Now rook h5, and we're just throwing away a bishop, and that's just plain silly. So that's, some players would call that luck. Pinning the pawn, there is some skill also. I had the good sight not to play like rook h6 and then lose the whole bishop. I instead played rook to g4, pinning the pawn that would otherwise capture the bishop on f4. I skate out of all of this with a sizable material lead. Bishop e5. This is more of how I've developed as a player with pawn to h5. Right, stabilizing the rook rather than moving it unnecessarily. I stabilize it with pawn to h5 and help keep an invading or a wayward king from entering black's side of the board. Get out your shot put balls. And h5 keeps the white king at bay. That's most of what, that's what I wanted to see in this position. Yeah, I'm willing to lose the pawn on f7 because I have a more long-lasting attack against white's king simply by stepping out of the check. Pawn to rook takes f7 check, and the black king moves to h8. This is just very good for black here. So White is under a lot of pressure, right? And he's down a piece. You make mistakes when you're under pressure while playing chess. Bishop to e3, king to h1, and bishop to e3, king to h1, knight to h2, and rook takes h2, checkmate. Alright, thank you. Thank you all for watching. Thank you, Gravitrons. I'm more gravity. Have a great night.